Welcome back, guys. This is Shrikant. This is day 3 of our series SQL Journey with Shrikant. So, in this video, we are going to talk about DDL commands. So, if you remember last time we discussed about theory part, and in this video, we are going to talk about all the practical things. Perfect. Let's go ahead. Before moving to the DDL command, we need to understand few important point here. So, let's start. So, what are those important points? So, first important thing is basically we should know what is server. Server is server is kind of a machine which can be identified by IP or a DNS name. So, just imagine your system. So, your system would be a machine, right? So that is a server, and if it is connected in the intranet or the internet, then that can be uniquely identified basically by the IP or the DNS, correct? So server is nothing but a machine. It could be a virtual machine, or it could be a physical machine, or it could be in a cloud, or it could be at your place. Then the next thing we need to understand, what is database server. So it is the database software. So if I'm talking about, let's say I want to install the Microsoft SQL server, so basically it would be my database server. I want to install the Oracle server, so that would be my database server, right? So likewise, it is the database software which is installed on the server machine. So as we just discussed, the server is kind of a machine, right? On that machine, one software has been installed. That's a database software. Then when we install that software on that machine, so that server will be created, and we call it as a database server. Perfect. Next, what is database? This is a container. So I will show you practically where to see the database, where to see the database server. So, but just to understand, what is database? The database is a container on the database server where we have all the object like table, view, trigger, store, procedure, user, and many more, lot of things. So when I talk about the data means basically it will be stored in table. So that table will be placed at a place, and that place basically is called as a database. So database would be a container where we have all the data, where we have all the business object like store, procedure, trigger, views, tables, everything will be there in the database. Perfect. Next. So let's talk about something about database. You may have a question, okay, you talk about database, but how to create it? So the syntax, if you see, create database and the name of the database, there are a multiple way where we can pass basically the file name, that how the data will be stored, right? Everything. Then how to access the database, we just need to use command. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to show you how to use it, right? So so for that we are going to use a software called as the SQL Server. So I will be creating a new separate video for installation of Microsoft SQL Server, but right now just understand we already installed the SQL Server, so I will show you how to open it. So when the SQL Server will be installed on your machine, you can use Oracle, you can use Postgres, or you can use anything. As I have already installed Microsoft SQL Server, so I am going to give demo on the SQL Server. So how do I open that? Just search with the SQL Server. Remember one thing, you need to install first. Either you can open the Postgres or Oracle or the MySQL. That's fine. Perfect. Then open it. The moment you will click on the database, so it will open the window like this, SQL Server Management Studio. So this we call it as a SSMS also. The moment it will get open, it will pop up a screen where you need to provide few important things. Let me show you. So here you will need to provide a server name. So right now the server name is basically my machine name. Actually, on this server, on this machine, the server has been installed. Perfect. Then you need to provide the authentication. There are two kind of authentication. One is basically Windows authentication, another is SQL Server authentication. Okay, for demonstration purpose I am going to use the Windows authentication. Just click on a connect. What will happen if this server is live or is active? Then you will be connected to the server, right? So we just got connected to the server. That's fine. So this is not a part of this course, so don't worry, I'm just going to show you how to open the SSMS. Then the next thing, basically here you would see multiple folders like databases, security, server, replication. These are all basically part of the Microsoft SQL Server. But for this course we are only going to talk about the databases. So here you would see something like databases, and if you just expand this, you would see number of objects. These are called as the objects. So every object is basically called as a database. As I said, database, right? As I said, database basically plays on the database server. So this is my database server. Under this I have the database, right? And inside the database I would be having table, I would be having views, I would be having trigger, right? Everything. So if I just click on the programmability, you would see something like store procedure, function, then types, everything, lot of things. So what I'm trying to tell basically, we have a database. Inside the database we have all these objects, we have the tables, we have the views, then we have the store procedure, right? We have the type, we have the function. So everything is placed where? Everything will be placed under the database. Perfect. Then the question come into your mind, how the database will be created, right? So there are a couple of way. In Microsoft SQL Server you can create database from the GUI, but for time being, as this is just generalized concept and we are only talking about SQL, so I'm going to show you how to create database through the command. So there is a command called as a create, then use database, then provide the name of the database. So name of database will, let's say, demo July 2024. So this would be my database name. So what you guys need to do, you just need to remove these less than greater than sign and just write like this. So what will happen, just select it and just run this. The moment you execute this query, what will be happening, basically you would see something like demo underscore July 2024. If you go to here under the database section, you would not see here demo July. Are you able to see? No. So what you need to do, you just need to refresh it once. The moment you will do refresh, you would see that database which we just have created. So this is the database. Perfect. Now the next thing, as I said in the presentation, if you, so first thing was how to create database, then the next thing is basically how to use the database. To access the database we need to use a command called as a use. So just select it and run it. It could be different for other database, but the concept of database would be the same. In Oracle also you will find the database, in SQL Server also you would find the database everywhere. Okay, perfect. So this is my database. Now what I'm going to show you, so let's find out our database here. When I try to find out my database here, I would see something like tables, I would see something like views. Then if I click on the tables, what will I get? Let's see. I won't be seeing anything because this is a blank database, nothing is there. So you need to create from the start. So you, if you click on the store procedure also, you would not see anything, function, everything. So basically it's a blank database which just has been created. Perfect. So these things are required. Now let's jump to presentation once again. Now let's come back to the topic, understanding the DDL. As I said, the DDL basically stand for data definition language. Just a recap once again. Data definition language, which represent basically definition of the data. So you can just read it like data definition language is a subset of SQL used to define and manage the database structure. Then it deals with the creation, alteration, and the deletion of the database object. This important thing is very important here. The object. Here the DDL deals with the objects. Objects means table, it could be procedure, views, anything. It doesn't deal only with the table, it also deals with the procedure, function, triggers, everything. Then what's the importance of DDL in SQL? The essential for setting up and organizing the database schema. So as we will move ahead, we will also talk about the schema. So schema is also basically the part or the separate part in a database. So first we will have the database, then inside database we might have the multiple schema. So each schema will represent the set of tables, right? For example, I want to relate some table only with these cells, so I would create a cell schema. If I want to relate the market schema, so I would be having few objects which will only dealing with the market schema. So like, don't worry, we will talk about the schema part, that will be separate part. So for time being, just understand DDL is something like when there will be any kind of creation, alteration or deletion of database object, then the DDL thing come into the picture. Okay, then what are the different DDL command we have? We basically have few command, and out of that I have listed here. The first important command is called as a create, then alter, then drop, truncate. There is a one more thing, sp rename, we will talk about that, but for time being these are the standard, standard command like create. So what is the use of create? So create is used to create a new table, databases or views and indexes. We just now we created the database, right? So likewise we just need to use the keyword called as a create. So everything has a different syntax, but for time being we are just focusing on the table. So how to create a table? We have a syntax like this. So create, then the table, then the name of the table, then open and close parenthesis, then the column name and the data type. Data type is something what kind of data you want to store, and the column name will represent what name you want to give. So this is a syntax. Then for alter, we basically have syntax like modifying the table. Then you can also modify the definition of store procedure. You can also modify the definition of views, everything. So what I have written here is to modify the existing database object, which is very simple, right? So if you already have something and you want to modify that, then you will go with the alter. So for example, you have the table and you want to add the column in that table, then this is the alter table name, then add column name and data type. Don't worry about the syntax, we'll cover each and everything, but right now just focus on this create command, then alter and the drop. So for drop, basically when you have the object in the database you need to drop it. So for example, I want to drop the table, then how would I use that? I would use drop table name, done. Then there is a one more TDL command called as a truncate. So used to remove all the record from the table but not all the table itself. What does that mean actually? It could be the question like what is the difference between the drop and truncate? So drop basically deals with the removing the table from the database, but truncate also does that, but there is only difference. The drop remove everything like structure and data, but truncate only remove data, not the structure. So that is basic difference. Used to remove all the record from the table but not all the from table itself, right? It's very simple. So syntax is like truncate, then the pass the table, then the table name. It will be done. Then there are a few example I have listed here. So for example, you want to create a table, then how would you create? Just pass create table, then the name of table as I said, then the data type, then the name of the column and the data type. Then if you want to alter the table, how would you do that? Then just write a alter table employee, then you want to add the column there, so you can just add it like that. Then you want to drop the table, you can use the drop command like this. Then you want to truncate the table, then use the truncate table like this. Simple. So what are the different best practices? So before moving to the best practices, we will now jump to the demonstration. So you remember we just have created the database code as the demo July 2024, and once we have created, we went into this, right? Now we will start with the creating a table. So how to create a table? As I said, you need to use a create, then you need to use a table, then you need to pass a table name. Let's write a syntax first, then open and close parentheses, right? Then you can pass basically the column name here, column name and the data type. SQL mostly support 999 column, but I don't think anyone can use that one, but yeah, the syntax is something like that. So for example, I want to create a table which will basically having a two columns. So how would I do that? So simply create table, just pass the name of the table called as employee, then the column name, let's say empid, then the data type. So for data type, basically there are multiple data type we have. So for example, you have the integer number. So storing that integer number, we would be having data type, that is the int. For example, you want to store the string character though, so we have the varchar, then n varchar, different data type. And for example, you want to store the decimal number, then we have the decimal float, different kind of data type. Also for example, you want to store the date or the date time, then we have a different data type. We'll talk about the data types and in detail, don't worry about that, but for time being just understand the data type means what kind of data you want to store. So I want to store, let's say, integer number. So what would be my data type? empid int. Perfect. So let's create data. I think this will be simple. For example, So I am just going to select this query. I selected this query, written something very easy, right? Create table, then imply name of the name of the table name, then the any column name you can give. There is no restriction. Then what kind of data you are going to store, then run it, right? So command completed successfully. Now how to cross verify that? There is a command, we'll talk about that, but right now just focus. So we just create a table called as employee, and we got a message like employee created successfully. Now if I just come here, I won't see anything, right? So just come here, refresh it. What would happen after refresh? You would see a table called as a employee, and if you just try to expand, you would see something, only one column, right? So empi likewise. So to demonstrate, for the demonstration of the create, how to create a table, so this is a basic way. We just created a table. For example, you want to add one more column, so how do you add it? Let's say emp name my next column, for example name, and imagine it will also store the int value only, or you could say age. That would be make more sense, right? So you can simply, let's create another table called as employee underscore one. So create it. So this table also created. Come once here on the database, just or the table section, and just refresh it. You would be seeing two table here. Perfect. Okay, now this is fine. Now next thing we are going to talk about is alter. Now we added this, we created this table. Now my requirement, basically I want to add one more column. So how I can do that? So for that I have a syntax, like first I need to write alter, then table, then employee. So just to recap, see the syntax: alter table, table name, then column, right? So alter table, table name, then I want to again add one more column called as a age id, age 2, or some kind of column. So if you just come here, see the syntax. So add salary. So I want to add a one more column here, right? So how would I do that? Just use add, then age 2, and the data type. I'm just adding int. Let's alter it. So what will happen? The command will complete it successfully. Now if you just come here and just refresh it, employee, and see the columns. So you would just see here one more column called as a age 2. H2 is a new column which we just added. So it, what does that mean? It means that once you create the table, you can add the column, right? Okay, fine. Next is drop. How you can drop the table? Then simply use the command called as a drop, then table, right? And then pass the name. Just run it, right? Now if you just come here and right click and the refresh, what would you see? Will you see that table here? No, you won't see that, right? Perfect. Same thing. Now the last command is basically truncate. Syntax is truncate table, and only thing you need to pass is the name of the table, right? Just cross verify the syntax. Truncate table, table name. Perfect. Now just open it and just run it. See what will happen when we'll go into DQL command. Then I will show you the data and everything. But just for timing, understand these are the way where we can use the alter, drop, truncate. First you need to create table, then if required just modify the table, if required drop the table, if required truncate the table, right? So let's go back. Then there are few practices which we need to keep in mind. These are not mandatory, but this will be good if you follow. So what will happen whenever you do any kind of DDL activity on the table? So there is a chances that you might lose a data. For example, you have a table and you are going to change the data type. Previously it was in, now it is, now you are going to make it as a float, right? So there is a chances something will be happen. So it's always better to keep a backup. That's a best practice. And for example, now you are going to drop a table, and sometime what happen, you run the query, it get drop, and again you are going to run the same query, so you would get error. So the best practice would be always check with, if exists or it not exist. This kind of clauses are very important to make sure the table is exist or not. And whenever we are going to deal with a drop, so always be cautious what are we going to do. If we are going to drop a table, which means the table will be gone permanently, and if we are going to truncate, what will happen? Structure would be there but data will be gone. So you need to keep in mind that it's very risky, high risky, so be prepared with that. And before making any DDL changes on the production, it's always suggestible, or it's always better to check those changes on the development of the queue environment. That will be very good. And thank you. So in this video we talk about what is DDL, what are the different type of DDL command, and how to use it. And we have seen practically how to create table, how to modify table, how to draw up the table, how to truncate the table. Hope you guys really enjoyed our video. In the next video we are going to talk about the DML command, and I hope it will be very useful and helpful for you. If you like our video, please don't forget to share and subscribe with your friend. Thanks. Thank you for watching.